Welcome to Chatting GPT, the podcast where I get to speak to interesting humans who are implementing AI. I'm your host, Maryrose Lyons, founder of the AI Institute, and today I've got the great pleasure of speaking to Ning Na. Ning is the co-founder and CEO of Green Tally AI, which is a Y Combinator backed company. Green Tally is a platform that automates the process of greenhouse gas accounting. I've invited Ning on in my continuing quest to find out more about the impact of our AI habits on the environment. And at the same time, I'm really interested to hear more about Green Tally's journey, as it has been a truly exciting one. Ning, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to have me on the show. I'm very excited to share some of my backgrounds, my knowledge in this sector, and hopefully I get to make some good recommendation to the listeners out there how to together to decarbonize in the current environment.
Yes, absolutely. Well, your knowledge is extensive. So let's start at the very beginning. Can I ask you, what sparked your interest in marrying AI with climate action?
Yeah, that's a great question to start off. 2 years ago, I decided to continue my executive education. So I went to HEC Paris to complete my year and a half executive MBA. During the course of the 18 months, I was able to choose a number of modules in sustainability, and the course in France was really heavily focusing on sustainability and also leveraging AI capability to drive the automation in helping a lot of the medium-sized, small-sized business to understand and efficiently calculate their carbon emissions so they can actually action on it. After that, I was invited to a few sustainability events by very interesting startups in France, and that inspired me to ask myself, why not to launch something in this space? Because not only you're doing something great for the environment, also through the innovative AI, it makes no sense not to enter the space and really help small to medium business to start their journey.
Yeah, no, that's it. And I'm so glad you did. As a small to medium business myself, I'm so glad you did. Can you give us an overview of, I suppose, the requirements that are facing, the greenhouse gas reporting requirements for someone like me? I'm not an enterprise ESG head, but I am very aware of the impact of my living on the environment. So what would be the requirements? And I suppose I'm asking you, who's your market and what pain are you solving?
Yeah, that's a great question. So step one would be a lot of small to medium business. You wouldn't have so much knowledge in this area. You wouldn't understand what are scope three, what are scope two, what are scope one.
What's
Initially, what we
scope
do.
one and scope two? What's
So
that?
yeah, let me quickly explain scope one, two, three first. Scope one is your gas usage. Anything directly produced by you for example, if you manufacture a chair, you need to use energy. If you use gas, fuel, that will be considered in the bracket of scope one. And scope two is your electricity usage, also your heating, coolant, things like that. Scope three is all of your purchases in your accounting ledger.
Uh-huh.
So greenhouse gas organization has really extensive regulations on this. Basically, to enable you to calculate your scope one, two, three, we have automated the whole regulations in our AI capability. So we can truly calculate the scope one, two, three within a very short period of time instead of weeks of manual data entries.
Well, that's really interesting because we had Miklos Premi on in the last episode, and he really opened our eyes to the kind of difficulty, or I suppose almost like the manualness up to date
Yes.
of how to record the carbon that is being produced. I was actually quite surprised by how previously how manual it was, but it's made massive inroads, hasn't it, in recent times, thanks to AI.
Yeah, exactly. Give you example. If we have to manually do it, firstly, you have to. There are really thousands of a carbon factor you have to choose from.
Yeah,
That's a challenge itself. And also, as mentioned, a lot of small to medium business they do not know where to start. How do you know? What are the carbon emissions of your business? So what we have done is we simply get the electricity bill, gas bills, and we upload to our AI. And we already fine-tuned a lot of our models so that we can really quickly to turn that electricity bill to carbon emissions and tell you a story, not only the calculated carbon emission, tell you where you can actually make gains in terms of
excellent.
how to reduce your energy use and to drive a better sustainability for your business, also for the overall planet as the whole
So,
objective as well.
so Ning, what would be a typical example of a kind of a recommendation that you'd see coming through your platform?
So we have the
Would it be
first.
stop using ChatGPT o3, for example?
Uh, we will typically recommend to our users not to use a pretty poorly structured prompt because you can write a random prompt, for example in ChatGPT, and then you do again. I know you have the pro users, and there's not a limit on that. So you do for example every time you run a query, that can consume 10 kg of CO2 approximately. So imagine you just randomly enter a query and then enter another and another. So you actually generate so much CO2 which you're not aware of. So we
Yeah,
typically ask them to be more precise with your prompt, and so you can actually you don't know like you're actually saving CO2, but you do by not running the data center to generate that query in the AI
yeah.
model.
Well, can I just mention at this point that we do a really good core skills course, and the very first module is all about prompting, and that's one of the
Yes.
things that we cover is how to be very efficient in your prompting.
Yeah.
So we have a course starting
Oh,
actually
that's
quite
that's
soon if you want to
interesting.
check out our website. But it's interesting. Just wasn't it at Easter weekend that I think Sam Altman's PR team were trying to get his name back in the news again,
Yeah.
and this thing about please don't say please or thank you, which is a bit of an affront to Irish people because we're please and thank youing all the time. But yeah, every time you do an extra please or a thank you, it's
Yes.
literally generating some
Yes.
carbon. I was horrified because we'd had a conversation before and you had shared some stats. What was the one about the flying to the one about training, flying to Shanghai is the
Yeah, flight
equivalent.
to Shanghai will generate about almost a ton of carbon. So a ton of carbon equals to almost from Dublin to Galway. You're talking about probably 20 to 50 return trips from Dublin to Galway. So it's quite heavy in terms of flying. But again, if you can use train and bus for short European trips,
Yeah.
it would be good. But again, that's down to how realistic, because in Ireland you could get a ferry that will save you a lot of carbon emissions.
Yeah, no,
Um,
but remember a few weeks back when ChatGPT brought out the image creation tool and,
yes,
usage spiked, and I saw stats about, India was now switched on to ChatGPT, and I was just thinking, because I had read somewhere that every time you generate an image using AI, it takes the
yes,
same amount of power as fully charging up your smartphone. So I was just
yeah,
thinking
exactly.
about all those fully charged smartphone emissions that was taking place in that, remember that week where everyone was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
making memes of
exactly.
themselves.
It's area really a lot of the massive AI companies, and they are looking into it, especially as the European Union they have a new AI regulations are coming into play very soon.
Yes.
All of the AI company they have to carefully reevaluate their energy usage and how to train their models appropriately as well.
Yeah. So that's actually, I was going to ask you about that. Our good old friend, the EU AI Act, which we're super fans of at the AI Institute. Do you want to just talk to us about the implications that are coming up in August 2025 from a carbon emissions point of view? Because we've always been thinking and considering around, AI policy, being fully transparent about your use. But there is a new edition coming in August, and Ning, tell us more about it.
So all the AI companies, ChatGPT, Cloud, other big names out there, they all have to disclose their energy usage for training their AI models. And also, they need to disclose the carbon emissions for training the model for a period of time. And it also it goes a lot more granular as well. It may give you matrix such as, if you use 5 prompts, 50 characters, it may consume 20 kg of carbon. All of these implications require the companies to invest in renewable energy because that's not sustainable if you literally rely on using national grids because the electricity usage is just massive. You cannot cope with that. For example, a lot of Google, Microsoft, and Meta, they already invest massively in renewable energy, wind power. So that has huge implications for OpenAI to find appropriate locations to implement some of these renewable projects, which is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it is. Now, we have first-hand experience working with a lot of really creative data center engineers,
Yes.
and the kind of work that they're doing in terms of pairing innovation with like things like liquid cooling now is a
Yes.
really big thing, with clean power sourcing. So on the one hand, the data center engineers are doing really good work. But then I've always wondered, on the other hand, can AI itself not solve its own problem that it's creating by coming up with other solutions?
At the moment, they are already working on to have a better answers for the query. I know a company, again, in the Y Combinator, what they were doing is they were able to save 70% of the energy. So what they did was they really, really fine-tuned the initial inputs, and the output is really, really excellent. And it doesn't, so basically you enter a query into this platform, and this platform will clean the data first, and then you are sent down to ChatGPT
Nice.
for further response. So it really saves about 70% of the
Well,
energy
that's
usage.
great. That's
So
really great
there are
because
companies out there. Yeah.
what would you have some names in the top of your head or
This
sorry to put you on the
company
spot?
called Densai, DSAI. I will again. I will send you a couple of companies.
Cool.
That's their bread butter is based on, and they really trying to first it save money. And so imagine if you have the same query over again. These are enterprise customers because they really help enterprise to save money on training the models. 70%, 80% cost, and then also 70% of a saving on energy usage.
That's fantastic. Yeah, do please send me them. I'd love to actually explore them some further. Because the thing is, like, I know of my own usage, it's like I'm not going to stop using it. Like, I am aware, but I do try and
Yeah.
emphasize, do not be throwing a basic prompt into something like O3 when you can
Yeah.
get it
Yeah.
solved using a much smaller model. I wonder if we'll get to a stage where we're all going to have multiple models and we're going to have like small little tiny ones for just our basic questions. Or ideally what I'd love to see is if one of the large frontier companies were able to just divert based on your prompt into the correct model. Do you think that's coming?
Um, I think one of the solutions you can eventually they're gonna have offline versions, so they have almost like a master ocean of knowledge database, and so you can pay maybe €9, and it doesn't really require as much energy usage because it doesn't have to go to the server, live server, to to match your query to various characters.
Yeah.
And that's something you can do, and there are ways you can do that now. But
Would
back to your
DeepSeek be one
answer,
of those options? Would DeepSeek
DeepSeek,
like on a local?
yeah, they have a few options. DeepSeek, they they actually powered quite heavily by renewable energy, wind mainly.
Right. All right.
That's because China is investing a lot of money in wind power. I know they still have a quite large amount of emissions as well, but in terms of investments in renewable, they are definitely quite heavily in this sector.
Yeah, no, China's leading in terms of green tech, isn't it? That's a whole other
Yes.
conversation. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. So I guess looking ahead, 2030, what would your vision be for Green Tally at that stage? And like what kind of ways will
Yeah.
you have supported your clients to help the
So
planet?
yeah, it's a great question. We have a quite strong roadmap. So basically, we want to enable small to medium companies to do their carbon emissions. Why you should do it? We want to take as many small to medium businesses. Also, they are really, really supportive government grants in Ireland,
Mm,
which really for a small company to avail of that. So how are we going to do it for up to 2030? Firstly, we are going out to a lot of small to medium companies to tell them why you should do it because people are busy these days, especially small companies. They do not have a lot of resources. Also, they don't have the knowledge. We actually not only giving you a software, we actually go one step further. We do the work for you
you do it, yeah.
because, yeah, we do the work for you. So we come in, we typically speak to their CEO for half hour. We then send a request. After, we will calculate and present the data back to the CEO and then give them a decarbonization plan. We truly want to continue this journey, mainly to help small to medium companies because
Mm,
what's happening now is if you want to work with government projects or bigger companies, they require you to have a decarbonization plan.
yes.
A few days ago, a quite large production, live musical production company, they lost a really big contract. The reason was the other company had a decarbonization plan, and they did not. That was
Wow.
over more than 100,000 euro contract.
Right. Yeah.
You can see this is coming, whether you like or not. It's coming for you. Also, there's a huge opportunities. Not only you do something quite positive for the planet, but your return on investments will be much more enhanced. You may not understand, you may not see it, you may ask, oh, where is it? But it's definitely there, and we can definitely give you some useful matrix. So yeah, 2030, we will continue and drive small to medium. We really want to help more than we want to help all of the small to medium businesses in Ireland. To be very
Yes.
honest, at the moment there are really not many tools or consultants helping as much as this area because there are no
It's very
sufficient
enterprise
fees.
focused though as well, isn't it? Like I would say
Yes,
to
yes,
anyone listening, and I know personally loads of people who would fit this criteria. Anyone listening who's a small to medium sized business owner
yes,
who really from their heart wants to be a
yeah,
good
exactly.
practitioner, wants to be a good person running a company, isn't sure how to tackle it. Maybe has a brand that's very much built around
Yes,
sustainability. Like they
exactly.
definitely need to be using Green Tally. Just have a chat with you, Ning, and you do it for them. You give them the software. The
Yes,
pricing is
yes,
really reasonable, and you can get a grant. So, like that's the reason why I invited you on here because it's just an absolute no-brainer for any company who wants to do the right thing and take a preemptive step before the
yes.
government starts wielding its big stick, which it will because we've been a little bit slow in Ireland, but it is coming.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if a small business, they really, say that to us, hey, we don't have a funding to do it. We can even do for really, we just really want to help.
Mm,
Also, our technology is pretty advanced. We typically use 70% of the human time to do it. So we save on the consulting fees. As mentioned, there are grants out there. We almost do for free of charge, to be
wow.
honest. But it's not about the government as well. You think about your own business as well. You're competing against others in Europe, in other countries. you want to tell a story about your business. You want to tell. You don't want to
Yes.
just tell a story. We're selling something. You want to tell a story. We're selling something. We understand our value chain. We under where our suppliers are doing. We are saving water because we're doing ABC. We're saving carbon by not doing this and that. It's a beautiful story, and down the line, you have a really higher chance to do well if you
Yes.
implement some of this really good
And
sustainability strategy.
and you'll go to heaven, whatever your heaven looks like. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
On that religious note, I think I'll bring it to a close. Ning, that's really helpful. So anyone listening, whether you're a small business owner, and if don't be afraid to contact Ning.
Yes.
If you're thinking like, oh no, we're too small, if your heart is in the right place and you
Yes.
really want to do it, Green Tally can help you. For the
Thank
larger
you. Yeah.
enterprise people listening, absolutely, I firmly believe in what you're doing. But like for the larger enterprise people listening, if you want to get a double tick of like we're doing ESG and we're doing AI, definitely contact Green Tally. Grants are available. It's a no-brainer, and
Yes.
Ning is a pleasure to deal with, as you can hear from his conversation here on the podcast. So thank you very much for joining me this morning, Ning, and thanks everyone for listening. And I hope we'll all take big steps into the future, being more aware of our carbon emissions and what we can do about them. Thanks, Ning.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Have a lovely day ahead.
Thanks.
Bye bye. Thank you.
That's it for